Okay, so welcome to our first, hopefully, annual Meet the Mayor event. This event was put together by Connecticut young professionals and the future leaders of Yale. Many of our officers are in the front over here. In partnership with the City of New Haven, we'd like to thank the City of New Haven and Mayor Harp for making this possible. Also, we would like to thank Avi and Roya for making this possible.
Closer. Keep it close.
Sorry, what?
You gotta keep it closer.
Okay, my name is Ferris Barani, and I, like many of you, am a young professional in the area. I moved here from Texas, and I have never been prouder to call the city home. I think that New Haven is a fantastic place for young professionals. It's a quirky, artsy, musical town that's great for young professionals. And young professionals are great for it. We are the future of New Haven, and it's really important that we keep engaged with the community, which is why I'm so excited about this event. The purpose of this event is to create a dialogue between the City of New Haven and the young professionals. You guys are the young professionals, and let me introduce to you Mayor Toni Harp. Mayor Harp is the city's 50th mayor. She's the first female mayor in New Haven, and as far as I know, the first urban planning professional to become mayor. She's a Yale alumni, like many of you in the audience. Don't hold it against me that I'm a University of Texas grad. She served over 20 years in the Connecticut State Legislature and has served as a state senator representing New Haven. She was born in San Francisco and raised in Salt Lake City. Both of those are top Western destinations for young professionals because of their innovative and creative spirits. And that sort of spirit is thriving in New Haven right now. So, with that brief introduction, let me ask Mayor Harp, how has your first year as mayor been going so far?
So first of all, I just want to thank you for inviting me to come and speak with you today. And I'm really so impressed that the Connecticut young professionals actually decided to come together and develop an organization here in New Haven for folks throughout the state. And it's so great that you're working with the future leaders of Yale as well. You know, my first year has been actually I would say very surprising in many respects. It has created for me, as someone who's been very interested in public policy, opportunities to begin to see things that I thought would be very good policies to implement actually become implemented, and I believe begin to show that they can actually make a difference in solving some of the problems in our community. And I came here as a grad student. I don't know if many of you did, but one of the things that I found about New Haven was that the democracy was very close to the people, and that anyone who's interested in actually having an impact on city policies can do that here in New Haven. And so I ran for Board of Aldermen, I then ran for the Senate. I was lucky in both cases to win. And now I'm mayor, and in this year, there are a couple of things that I thought were important to do. I thought it was really important that we address safety matters in our city, and that we find ways to engage young people who, for one reason or another, have lost their way and are beginning to do negative, destructive things as it relates to themselves and as it relates to our city. And so we've made some progress, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later, doing that. I thought it was really important that we think about the world that we live in and make sure that we have an educational system that takes into consideration something that is very different. I think we still pretty much have the school system in place that we had when I was a young person. And moms pretty much didn't work, and when you didn't have two-parent families trying to raise children, trying to work, have careers as well. And so one of the things that I thought that we really needed to think about is, do we have the appropriate time of day for school? Are our children engaged, and does it relate to modern families and not to the families of the 1950s? And so I've been working really hard to try to think about ways that we modernize our city, the kinds of services that we have, to make sure that they take into consideration the world that we live in today. And so it's been really exciting to have that opportunity, and I feel so grateful to the people of New Haven who are electing me so that I can try to move forward on policies that I think are important. And I'm excited about it. So it's been a great year so far.
Well, it's really fantastic to hear. So I have kind of an odd question for you. I recently read that President Obama gave New Haven a shout out during your trip to DC at the mayoral conference. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what that was about?
So one of the things that I thought was really important, and I mentioned it briefly, is that we begin to engage young people who, for one reason or another, are disengaged. They're young people who've dropped out of high school, or they've been suspended, or they're DF students. And what I discovered very early on is that these young people go home to no supervision, that they just wander the streets, and if they're adolescents, for those of you who know a little bit about adolescent development, you know that they form groups of people, and they oftentimes do negative and destructive things. So what we wanted to do was to come together with the school system and develop a program that engaged these young people. At the same time, President Obama was developing a program called My Brother's Keeper, and it had several things that it wanted to accomplish, and as it turns out, those things actually dovetailed with what we were doing in New Haven. For many years that I've been in politics, every superintendent that has been a superintendent in New Haven Public Schools, there have been about 3, and when someone's been shot or killed by a young person, they've always said, I could have told you that that child would do that. And so after I was elected in November, there were about 4 killings of young people in New Haven. So I said to the superintendent, I said, well, okay. He said the same thing to me. I could have told you that that would have happened to that person. I said, well, okay, then now tell me who's next. And of course he couldn't tell me. But he could look back and look at the qualities of the kids who had either been shooters or been shot and determine what those qualities were. So I said, can you identify who those young people are, and can we reach out to them, 1, to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and 2, to begin to re-engage them in positive, productive behavior. And so what we did was use what we learned from campaigns. And the school system was able, they said there were about 200 kids. They were able to identify about 400 young people. And what we did was ask our police, our firefighters, our school teachers, and advocates in organizations across our town to go to these homes to talk to the parents and actually reach out to them and say, can we help you? Because if you have a child who is that disengaged, it's got to be difficult for you as a parent. And so we went and we knocked on doors and we engaged these parents. We actually helped some people who thought their kids were in a lot of trouble move out of town. And so the result of that is that so far this year, since we've done that, there have been no young people who have been killed, and we've been able to develop a number of programs to address these young people. So, U.S. Conference of Mayors every January has a meeting in Washington, D.C. so that we can lobby Congress on issues that matter to cities. And also, for the past few years, the Obama administration has hosted U.S. Conference of Mayors. And so I was there, and I saw one of the young people, probably belongs to your organization in Washington, D.C., who said, I want you to go into another room because the president wants to meet you and others who've worked on my brother's keeper. So I thought, oh, that's nice. And so they give you a little card, you get your picture taken with the president, and I thought that was nice. And then he gives a little speech to about 14 people, and I thought that was it. And so I go back and I find my seat. He comes out and he starts to give his speech, and then he mentions our canvas, our community canvas in his speech, and I could have fallen off my chair. So it was very exciting.
Oh wow, that sounds fantastic. So, when you ran for mayor, you talked a little bit about this already, but when you ran for mayor, you highlighted education, jobs, and safety as your top concerns. Are these also your top concerns, and how are you juggling it with kind of the unexpected issues that come your way? For example, public health issues like Ebola, and also excess snow that has to be removed.
So when I ran on something that is, it sort of reminds me of the first book that you read when you're in kindergarten or first grade. What's the first word you learn? See, right? See, Jack, run. Anyhow, so what basically I thought it's really important for New Haven to see. That means safety, education, and employment. Those were my main things. But I realized after my second day at work that we had a snowstorm of 6 inches, and I found my way to the Emergency Operations Center. And then it didn't snow the next day, and then it snowed 6 inches the next day. And then after that, I discovered that the Department of Transportation took 5 of our trucks off the road because they broke down, our snow plows. And so I realized that while education is important, while safety is important, we've got to plow the streets so that people can get to their jobs. And that we didn't have the adequate equipment to do that. And so one of the first things that I had to worry about is how do you get the right kind of snow equipment so that we can take care of the snow that we have. There was 1 year that I lived here that it didn't snow. But every other year it snowed, and so for some reason it just hasn't been a high priority, and I thought it's got to be a priority of my administration. I still want to see, but I also want to deal with the snow because people have got to get to work. And so we figured out, I spent 10 years as the appropriations chair for the state senate in the General Assembly. And one of the things that I noticed in our budgets was that the state leased a lot of its vehicles. New Haven, on the other hand, whenever it needed vehicles, they always purchased them using the capital budget, which is what a lot of places do. But then I thought, well, if the state leased their vehicles in order to own them, perhaps we could do so too. And I also found out there were a lot of smaller towns that had much better equipment than we did. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was to make sure that we had equipment that could actually deal with the snowstorms that we've been having over the years. And since, I believe, 2011, we have had major snowstorms that have been worse than any snowstorms that we had since 1888. And so for those of you who don't believe in global warming, I think for the past 4 or 5 years, our snowstorms really indicate that we've got a problem in this country, and we're going to have snow, and we've got to deal with it. So we were able to buy 11 trucks and a really cute gizmo that actually is a 10-foot snowblower. And it works downtown and actually goes to the curb so that I think that we're doing a better job. Are we doing a better job this year? If not, we have better toys. We're trying to do everything that we can to do a better job. So I had to deal with snow. The other thing is that I came in with a budget that was $9 million in deficit at the middle of the year. And so one of my goals was to make sure that we end the year basically in balance. And so we did everything that we could to end the year in balance, and we actually ended the year in balance. We're working on that again this year. The governor gave his budget address, and one of the things, for those of you who don't know that much about New Haven, because so much of our land is owned by not-for-profits, universities and hospitals, we get a lot of resources from the state. So it was really important for us to hear today that the governor said that he would hold us harmless. But what he means by holding harmless and what we need in terms of holding harmless are two different things. But we're in a much better shape. That the $600 million that he took out of the budget, he didn't take as much out of the hides of our municipal areas as could be, so that I think that we'll be able to get through yet another year. So in spite of the fact that I focus on the SEE, I've also got to focus on the snow and finance as well. So I guess it would be CEIFS. It's not a word.
So Mayor Harp, New Haven is clearly Mayor Harp, New Haven is clearly a cultural destination in the region and in the Northeast. And I know you're a firm believer of the arts and cultural scene here. Can you give us an overview of your Live, Work, Play project and what it's going to make New Haven look like for young professionals a couple years after that?
Sure. One of the things that, first of all, I want Andy Wolf to stand up and turn around. He's my arts director, arts, culture, and tourism director. So the arts are really important. We have some of the oldest art institutions in America here in New Haven. We have the fourth oldest symphony. The Schubert Theater right there is 100 years old this year. Longworth Theater is 50 years old, and it goes on and on and on. And actually, on February 14th, we saluted all of our cultural institutions that were 50 years old and older. And Andy, again, stand up because he sort of led this. Give him a big round of applause because he's got a lot of new ideas here. Now, one of the other distinctions that we have as a state is that we basically haven't grown as a state, and that New Haven has a very low vacancy rate. So in other words, it's really hard to find an affordable apartment here. Over the next 2 years, though, there will be 2,000 new apartments built in the city of New Haven, and some of those apartments will be at the Live, Work, Learn, and Play site, which is the old Coliseum site. Some are right down the street here, some are at the old Union Trust Bank, and they're all over town because what we've discovered is that folks your age really like living in New Haven. And so that there is a market for people to live in apartments, and then people my age, the baby boomers, they are tired of living in the suburbs and they want to come and live in a city too. So we're really excited that we are growing as a city, that we're going to have these 2,000 more apartments within the next 2 years. And Live, Work, Learn, and Play will also provide for us another hotel option that will be a 4.5-star hotel, and we'll create a little cultural center within it, and you'll enter New Haven right at that site. So we're going to be lowering the highway, and you'll be entering right at Orange Street instead of sort of up above and around. So we're very excited about this, and we expect to be breaking ground at least on lowering the highway within the next year.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Housing is definitely an issue that young professionals care about. Another issue is transportation. I don't know, you mentioned that highway project, but what other transportation initiatives are you looking at for transportation innovation projects?
Another area that we're very concerned with developing is what we call the Hill to Downtown. And the anchor for that is Union Station. We have a goal to have 1-hour trips, we hope soon, from Union Station to Grand Central Station in New York. And we're thinking that if we do that, actually there are a lot of Yale faculty that live in New York, and they commute to New Haven back and forth. Right now, as we look at it, it takes about 5 hours a day to do that. And we want to do everything we can to reduce that amount of time. And if we can get it down to an hour, and we've been negotiating with the Department of Transportation as well as with Metro North to deal with that. And it's a few years out because there are some infrastructure issues that have to occur along the tracks. We think that we might be able to get an hour into New York City if we go to Penn Station. That's a little bit closer. And we've gotten at least an initial agreement from the Department of Transportation to look at that first. There's some infrastructure work, as I said before, that has to be done on the Metro North line, but we think we can reduce it over time so that now it takes almost 2 hours. We think we can get it down to an hour and a half and at least down to 45 minutes to the New York line. And because I think that's where the tracks get a little difficult. So we're going to be working on that. The other thing is that we're going to be we're doing an overall transportation plan. We received about $1 million from the federal government to look at transportation, getting people in and out of New Haven. And so we're going to be looking at reconfiguring where buses stop and go. We're going to try to move a lot of the transfer stations. Right now, if you notice, it's on the green in New Haven, and we ultimately would like to move it away from the green, either closer to Union Station or closer to the State Street Station. And so we hope to do that so that there won't be as much traffic and gridlock right on Chapel Street. But there's a group of people now working on that plan that we hope to present within the next couple of months on transportation. The other big transportation issue for us is New Haven Airport. We've been working for the past couple of years to get some changes in the general statutes to let us pave the runways there so that larger and heavier planes, larger planes can land there now, but they can only be so heavy. That means they can only have so many seats on them. So we want to be able to pave those runway areas so that we can actually get our regional jets into Tweed. I think it's very important for the growth and development of this area.
It's really interesting to hear about all these projects going on with Union Station and with bus stations and all that. My next question is what would you say to people who still perceive New Haven as dangerous?
Well, one of the things that I would say is that we've reduced crime significantly. As a matter of fact, over the past 2 years, we've reduced crime by 48%. That we have, I believe, some of the best technology in America here. There are some neighborhoods where there are still problems, but so much so that when there were guns fired, people oftentimes don't even call the police. But we have something called ShotSpotter, which basically is a program that identifies where the shots are coming from and automatically calls the police. We believe that that has reduced the number of shots. We know that it's reduced the number of shots fired in New Haven. We know that the number of people who have been shot have been reduced and the number of murders have been reduced, so that using a firearm, so that we have made progress. And I believe that this year we'll even do better than we did last year. We did very, very well. And so far this year, as I said before, there are no young people that have been engaged in any of that kind of behavior because we have reached out to them and really pulled them back into the mainstream of our community. And I think that we can show the rest of urban America how to deal with this kind of crime. We have really made progress. I don't believe that the news is out there, and a lot of people still believe that this is a violent city. The reality is that it isn't.
Something that a lot of people do believe in New Haven is that it's the #1 foodie city, and a lot of young professionals do love the food here. So, without losing any votes, what would you say is your favorite food destination?
Well, you know, I really just love to eat. So I dare not say. I think I could find something that I love at every one of our restaurants. And I think the only thing that we are missing is a German restaurant here in the city of New Haven. So I am looking forward to that. But I don't think there is a bad restaurant in New Haven, and that you will enjoy wherever it is that you go to eat in New Haven. It's a fabulous place. And I always say you can eat yourself around the world here. So whatever it is you want to eat, we've got it except for German food.
So this is a fun question. Each day on the New Haven homepage, there is a different historical fact that distinguishes New Haven. My favorite one is that Ben Sherman, a founding father of this country and the first mayor of New Haven, was the only person to have signed all 4 great state papers. If you could send him a message today about how New Haven has changed in the past 377 years, what would you say?
Well, of course, we have a larger population, but the reality is that we built upon what was really good. We were the first planned city in America. We started out with the plan for the 9 squares, and our city grew around those 9 squares. We have the oldest continuous green in America. The fact that it was founded here on a port. We have the most active port in the state of Connecticut, and all of the gas and oil comes in from New Haven Harbor and goes all the way up into Vermont. And so that the fact that we continue to use the port, that it's active and really the only and most active one in Connecticut, is really important. We still use the Farmington Canal, which was one of the, but we've changed it because it's now a walkway and a bikeway, and it bikes through Yale, so that you can take the Farmington Canal from Yale and go all the way up to Farmington, and one day you're going to be able to go all the way up into Massachusetts from the Farmington Canal on bicycle, should you choose to do that. But the reality is that what made us great continues to make us great as a city. It made us great back then, and it makes us great now. Actually, during that time, we had the precursor to Yale University, and it certainly is our flagship university here. But the reality, we have other universities, and it's really the beginning of the knowledge economy that really started back then, but has just grown. So I think that he would look at New Haven and say some of what he did to build the infrastructure of New Haven is still the same, but how we've expanded upon it has actually kept us current, modern, and continue to grow.
So to me, what makes New Haven great is that it's like a quirky, artsy, musical town, and there's a lot of cultural things going on that offer a lot to do. As a downtown resident, I'm really excited about the reopening of the Palace Theater. Can you give me a little bit of your vision for the Palace Theater and what the vision is for that?
Well, it's going to be a music hall. It's right across the street. And it wasn't easy to get it going, as you can read in the Independent, with reality. But we are here, and what makes it so exciting is that we're going to have music from all over the United States, if not all over the world. Here in New Haven, it will be accessible to everyone who lives in this area and in this region, and I believe that people will be coming from the multi-state area to get really great music that we couldn't get before because we didn't have a place that was large enough. And so this will hold about 2,000 people for concerts, and we'll be able to get some of the folks that you probably know better than I do here in New Haven that you can see that relate to a young and professional crowd, but as well as older. You know, my driver at the time is from Jamaica, and he said, I can't wait because fans that he knows that are in Jamaica that would love to come to the United States will be able to come here and play because the venue is large enough. So we are so excited, and almost everyone that I talk to is excited about the fact that it will open in April.
So this is probably the most important question I have for you. Where do you think young professionals can have the largest impact in the development and revitalization of New Haven? What can we do to make New Haven a better place today as young professionals?
You know, there almost anything that you can imagine you can do in New Haven. One, because we're a creative city. We're a city where government, as I said before, is very accessible to people, so that most of our board of alders are comprised of young people who care about their communities and their neighborhoods. And so if you want to be involved in elected politics, you certainly can do it here. If you're interested in parks and trees, we have opportunities for you to be involved here. If you're interested in public health issues, you can do that here. If you're interested in developing arts and culture, there are opportunities to do that here. So almost anything that you would want to do, you can do here. We have a great sister city organization that has, I believe, what do we have, 7 sister cities, and we're looking to perhaps develop a couple more so that we have international relationships as well. And so wherever you have an interest, we have a place for you in New Haven. So come on down.
Wonderful. Well, we'd like to open it up to the floor for 1 or 2 questions now, and I will let Mayor Harp pick who gets to have the questions. Feel free to raise your hands if you have any questions. Mayor Harp, would you like to select something?
She can select. She's got them.
So, let's go. Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Harp, for leading this. Your office is leading the city in a Promise Zone application for the federal government. If we're awarded as a Promise Zone, we get federal funding and AmeriCorps members to address poverty and crime in the city. In putting together this application for the city, you've asked the nonprofit sector to consider the next 10 years. And I was wondering if you could share your vision for the city of New Haven for the next 10 years. Sarah Masana. Someone else.
You know, I hope that in the next 10 years that we address the issues of New Haven residents finding jobs so that they're gainfully employed. I think it's really important that we solve our homeless issue in the city of New Haven over the next 10 years. We had a 10-year homeless plan. We did some with it, but there's so much more that we need to do. In the next 10 years, I hope that we reduce healthcare disparities in our community, that we reduce and eliminate, actually, the achievement gap in our city. I believe that we can do all of those things if we all work together. One of the things that we discovered in doing the Promise Zone application is that hundreds of millions of dollars come into New Haven every year to the not-for-profit sector. And that if we work together, we can solve those problems. If we get that designation, then we will likely even get more federal funding, so that those things can be solved. I think they can be solved in a city like New Haven. It's manageable, and if we work within New Haven and then some of our budding communities, that we can actually solve those problems if we work together.
Okay, one more question.
My name is Brandon. I've been in Haven for about 20 years. Thank you for coming and speaking with us. My little brother just started his second semester at UConn, struggling a lot. I feel that high school didn't really prepare him for what he faces in college. Do you think there's something we can do to prepare our high school students better for universities?
One of the things that we discovered about particularly public high school in our state, it's even more of a problem in New Haven, is that oftentimes what our mastery tests, when we did mastery tests a couple of years ago, what they were looking at and what colleges needed young people to have as skills were very different. So what we have been in the process of doing is really beginning to change the curriculum in our high schools, because we have so many colleges now in New Haven where instead of having AP courses, that we're creating opportunity for young people to take college courses while in high school. And I believe that that will actually help them understand what will be required of them once they go to college. One of the things that I've observed that happens oftentimes is that learning to sort of self-motivate yourself around work is really difficult if you never have to do that in high school. And so we have got to, as an urban community, get our young high school students used to working, able to work alone, to self-motivate, and then to have experience taking college courses. And we have a number of schools in New Haven that allow for that. Hill House High School is becoming an academy that will give actual college courses through the high school. ESOM's our Engineering Science University Magnet School that is affiliated with University of New Haven, provides college credit as well. And then at Wilbur Cross, there are college credits. Students are able to take college classes there, and there are actually some New Haven students that are taking college classes at Yale and Southern. So to the degree that we can do more of that, I believe that our young people in New Haven will be prepared and won't be overwhelmed by going to a large college or university away from home.
Thank you so much, Mayor Harp. We really appreciate you doing this. I'd also like to thank Andy Wolf, who helped put this together. And we're so glad to have you guys here today. Please feel free to get some more drinks and enjoy yourselves for a little bit longer.
Thank you.